Bruno Hauptmann. The Limburg baby kidnapping. It was March 1st, 1932, when America froze in shock. The infant son of famed aviator Charles Lindbergh vanished from his nursery in Hopewell, New Jersey. A ransom note was left behind, and what followed would become one of the most controversial criminal cases in US history. Bruno Richard Hauptmann, a German immigrant and carpenter, was arrested 2 years later. Found in possession of $14,000 in marked ransom bills, Hauptmann insisted he was holding the money for a friend who had since died. Yet the evidence against him kept piling up. Wood from the homemade ladder used in the kidnapping was linked to his attic. His handwriting allegedly matched the ransom notes, and yet doubts lingered. The media branded him guilty before the trial even began, but inconsistencies in witness testimony and mishandled evidence left space for skepticism. Some believed he was a scapegoat, a convenient suspect in a case that had spiraled out of control. Despite pleading innocence to the end, Hauptmann was convicted and executed in 1936. But decades later, some researchers and legal experts still question the investigation's integrity. Was justice truly served? Or was the truth buried alongside the man who took the fall? Caravaggio, the painter who disappeared. He painted with light and shadow like no one before him, but his life was filled with darkness. Michelangelo Maurice de Caravaggio was a genius of the Baroque period and a fugitive of the law. Born in Milan in 1571, Caravaggio's work stunned audiences with its raw realism. He painted saints and sinners with the same brutal honesty, using peasants, beggars, and criminals as his models. But his brilliance was matched by a violent temper, brawls, arrests, and finally, a murder. In 1606, he fled Rome after killing a man in a street fight. For 4 years, Caravaggio wandered southern Italy, painting masterpieces while evading capture. Then, in 1610, he vanished. Some say he died of a fever on the beach of Porto Ercole. Others whisper of a political assassination. His body was never conclusively identified, yet even in death, his mystery lives on. Why did the Vatican seem so eager to forgive him just before he disappeared? And why did some of his final paintings hint at inner torment or secrets he couldn't say aloud? Charles Edward Stuart, the lost king in waiting. They called him Bonnie Prince Charlie, a romantic figurehead of a failed rebellion. But behind the songs and legends lies the story of a man shaped by exile, defeat, and a destiny that slipped through his fingers. Born in Rome in 1720, Charles Edward Stuart was raised to reclaim the British throne for the exiled House of Stuart. In 1745, he landed in Scotland, rallying the Highland clans with fierce loyalty. For a moment, it seemed history might bend in his favour. But the rebellion faltered at the Battle of Culloden. Defeated and hunted, Charles became a fugitive, hiding in caves and disguised as a maid to evade capture. The once proud prince was now a man on the run. He lived the rest of his life in obscurity and disappointment, drinking heavily, his supporters scattered. Yet his legacy grew, not through power, but through myth. Paintings, poems, and stories immortalized him as the noble pretender who almost changed the world. And even now, some wonder, if history had turned slightly differently, would his name be among kings? Charles Rogers, the man who vanished behind the walls, Houston, 1965. Police enter a modest home in the affluent Montrose neighborhood. What they find in the refrigerator chills them to the bone. The dismembered remains of an elderly couple, Fred and Edwina Rogers, but of their son, Charles, there was no trace. Charles Rogers was a reclusive man, known to communicate with his parents only through notes slipped under the door. A former Navy pilot and an oil industry seismologist, his intelligence was unquestioned. But so was his growing paranoia. After the murders, Charles vanished without a trace. Some believe he escaped to South America. Others suspect a deeper conspiracy, CIA involvement, due to his alleged ties to intelligence work. No fingerprints, no sightings, just a blood-stained mystery that never truly faded. Who was Charles Rogers, a cold-blooded killer, or the fall guy in a larger, hidden game? Christian Friedrich von Kulbutz, the corpse that would not decay. In a crypt beneath a small church in Kampel, Germany, lies a body that refuses to rot. The year was 1702, when Christian Friedrich von Kulbutz died. But centuries later, his corpse remains eerily preserved, with no embalming and no scientific explanation. A Prussian knight and landowner, Kulbutz lived with power and privilege, but his life was not without controversy. Local legends claim he killed a peasant who refused his advances and escaped justice through his status. According to one chilling version of the tale, the peasant's mother cursed him, that his body would never decay unless he confessed. Scientists have studied his remains. No signs of mummification, no chemicals, no burial conditions that fully explain the preservation. Some attribute it to natural causes, others aren't so sure. Is it a strange twist of nature, or is the knight's body still holding on to a truth that was never spoken aloud? Clara Imovar, the silent protest of a chemist's wife. In the early 20th century, Clara Imovar was a brilliant chemist in a world that rarely allowed women into the lab. She earned her doctorate at a time when female scientists were almost unheard of. But history remembers her not for her research, but for her death. She was married to Fritz Haber, a fellow chemist who pioneered chemical warfare during World War I. As he celebrated the first successful use of poison gas, Clara watched in horror, believing that science should serve life, not destroy it. Just days after the deadly gas attack, Clara took her own life with her husband's military pistol. She left behind a son and a question that still haunts many. Was this the final protest of a woman trapped between morality and ambition? Some say she was a martyr for science ethics, others a victim of domestic despair. Cornelius Gurlitt, the hidden vault of Nazi-looted art. In a cluttered Munich apartment behind stacks of old newspapers and cans of expired food, authorities made a discovery that stunned the art world. Over 1,400 works of art, hidden for decades. Picasso, Matisse, Chagall, and one reclusive man, Cornelius Gurlitt. He lived alone, rarely speaking to neighbors, but his father, Hildebrand Gurlitt, had been one of Adolf Hitler's art dealers, tasked with collecting works, many of them stolen from Jewish families during the Nazi era. After Hildebrand's death, Cornelius quietly inherited the collection. He never tried to sell them. He never displayed them. He simply kept them for over half a century. Why did he hide them? Was it guilt, fear, or loyalty to a father's shadowed legacy? Even after the discovery in 2012, many of the artwork's true owners remain unidentified, and as legal battles continue, the question lingers: how much stolen history is still hidden? In attics, in basements, behind locked doors. The Cornelius of truth buried alongside the man who took the fall